Hey, welcome back to another episode of Rags to Riches. Today's special guest is Tiffany. She will be discussing becoming a teen mom and having a miscarriage. How are you, Miss Tiffany?
All right. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for being a guest. How old were you when you found out you were pregnant?
I was 14.
14. And what was going through your mind when you found out?
Oh, well, the thing about it is, I missed my cycle and I didn't know what was going on. So went to school one day and one of my classmates was like, "You could be pregnant," and I was like, "There's no way." But of course, I was having unprotected sex, so just very
Mm,
uneducated. Even though the school system kind of teaches you about, the reproductive system, they don't teach you everything, right?
true.
So they tell you, okay, you have unprotected sex, you could possibly get pregnant, but who would have known within the first few months it would happen. So anyway, she told me to go to the house, take a hot bath, and see if that relaxes the muscle to bring on the cycle. It didn't happen.
Oh,
So
wow.
went to my mom, and I was like, "Ma, like I missed my cycle," and she was like, "Oh well, sometimes that happens. Don't worry about it." So one of her friends from the neighborhood was sitting at the table, and she was like, "You know what? That means she could be pregnant." And my heart just
She busted.
dropped. My heart dropped because I already knew like what my mom's reaction was going to be.
Right.
And so when, she thought about it, she was upset, but she was like, "We're gonna go get a pregnancy test." And I was pregnant. So my first thoughts was, how are we going to take care of this baby?
Right.
And so my mom reached out to his mom. They wanted me to have an abortion. I'm like,
Oh,
"No,
wow.
we did this, we're gonna have to figure it out." So
Right.
I was a little scared, but at the same time, I just, for some reason or another, I had a lot of confidence that him and I would be able to make it work some type of way. I don't know how, but it was gonna work some type of way. But I
Right.
was a little scared at first. Really, it was more so of a scary feeling than anything, but we managed to get through, the thoughts of it, and the scary, I think the most scariest part was telling our parents.
Right.
Because I know, a child having a child, my mom was like, "I can't raise another child," and I'm like, "Well, we'll just have to figure it out."
Right. And that's understandable. So how did the baby father, how did he react when you told him and his family?
um Well, his mom was like, "No, like, we're not having a baby. You guys gonna have to get an abortion." And we were like, "No." The thing about it was, we actually kind of talked about it. My cousin had a baby, and the baby was in the NICU, and so we
Oh,
went to visit. And I guess it was the energy from the NICU. I don't, I'm more so, I consider myself an empath. I can kind of pick up on a lot of energy, and so it was
right.
more so of, you can just kind of feel the love, kind of feel the sadness a little bit from the babies being in the NICU, but it was more so of the love that we felt. And him and I was like, I don't know why as kids. Well, now I figured that it was a lack of love somewhere that caused us to want to have a baby. I
Right.
think about it now, and I'm like, that's the only thing I could think of that would propose us or make us think about having a child. But he was okay with it. He was fine.
Okay, so how did you tell your parents? I know you said you told your mom, so I mean, how did you come about going to tell her? Were you just like up front and was like, "Mom, this," or was you kind of beating around the bush with it? So how did you go about telling your parents?
When I got off the school bus, I was talking to my niece, and I was like, "I'm gonna have to tell her that I missed my cycle. That's the only other way." Like, okay,
Okay.
okay, yeah. Went to her and I just told her that I missed my cycle. I didn't tell her that I was pregnant because I didn't know that I was pregnant. I just told her
Right.
that I missed my cycle, and she was like, sometimes that happens. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then and until her friend, just came out and
Right.
said, hey, she could be pregnant. Oh, and that right there just got it. I'm like, but yeah, we went ahead and got a pregnancy test and it was positive.
Okay, so did your friends treat you different when they found out, or?
It was only a selected few that knew, and no, they didn't find out. However, I did have family, okay, that talked and gossiped about it. One family member in particular that was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna let my it was my niece. Well, it was my niece's mom, my sister. She was like, she wasn't gonna let my niece hang with me
Oh
anymore because I was
wow.
being fast, and it wasn't that I was being fast. I was dating and I was having sex. I mean, if you want to consider that being fast, I guess so. But
Right.
at that time, I felt like I was in love, and I don't know why as a child we wanted a baby, but like I said, the only thing I can think of is it was a lack of love somewhere. And we just knew that if we have this baby, as long as we love this baby will love us back. And that was our
True.
mindsets when it came to it.
Did you feel like you were ready to be a mom?
Um, Financially, no. Mentally, maybe. I mean, I was always a person that was kind of to myself. So if I would have
Right.
had a baby, it would have been just me and the baby's father. However, now that I look at it, I would have missed out a lot on life.
Yeah.
A lot, my teen years going out, hanging with friends. Would I have been okay sacrificing that? Yeah, for my
Right.
baby, I would have been okay with it.
Right. So, now you said I know me and you were talking and you had a miscarriage. So, how far along were you when you had your miscarriage?
I was 3 months.
3 months. And how
Mm-hmm.
did you find out about the miscarriage?
Went to the doctor one day, and I was having really bad cramps. And the doctor checked my cervix, and he was like, "Well, your cervix is kind of short." And I'm like, "Okay, what does that supposed to mean?" He was like,
Right.
"Oh, we're not gonna worry about it. It's nothing. Sometimes that's the case." So I was staying with my godmom at the time, and I just woke up out of my sleep, just in terrible pain. Literally, like I had to literally crawl to her room because I just couldn't stand up. And so
Wow.
I woke her up, and told her and that I was cramping really bad. So she called the ambulance, um, and I can kind of feel the baby sliding like out of
Oh
me. Like
wow.
it was really, really painful. And so when we went to the first hospital, they did not have labor and delivery at the first hospital we went to. So well, no, she drove me there. And then from there, since they didn't have labor and delivery and I was in so much pain, they put me on an ambulance. And they just kept telling me not to push, not to push. And I was in like just crying, just tears. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do because they telling me not to push, but at the same time, I felt the urge of that I needed to
To
push.
push. Right.
So they was just like, just wait. So I went to the hospital. At the hospital, they told me that I was miscarrying, and I went ahead and they told me to go ahead and push. But when they checked me, the baby's feet was hanging out of my
Oh.
cervix. And so they told me to go ahead and push, and I can just remember just laying there crying. One of my sisters was there, and I was just telling her like, I want my baby. I want my baby. I will never. I tell you, I can see it now, like that moment. And I just kept crying to her, and she was crying with me. And I think that was very, very traumatizing for a 14-year-old.
I
Very,
can
very
imagine.
traumatizing. And so I went ahead and they went ahead and took the baby. They did let me hold him. It was the way that the genitals looked, it looks like it was going to be a little boy.
Right.
So I got to name him, and they gave me this little certificate with his footprints on it, and I wrote his name, and it was very traumatic. You know, I didn't think about how traumatic it was as a kid,
Right.
but as an adult, it was very, very, very traumatic. And so I kept all of his things up until I was probably about 25, 26. And I was cleaning out my house one day. I know I just can't take it with me everywhere, but the memories are still there. So
Right. Right. Absolutely. So, were you able to tell the dad, and how did he feel about it?
he was not there, and yes, I did end up telling him, and he was definitely sad about it. At one point he thought we was gonna try again. I was like,
Right.
no, I don't think we thought about that. I don't think we thought about that clear enough. Like we didn't think that through. So no, we will not be able to try again at this time. But he was really sad about it. I think we both mourned for a very long time.
Right. So, with your mom, was she there to kind of guide you and, kind of, comfort you afterwards?
Not really.
Mm.
My sister was there, and she was the absolute best during these times because, like I said, I think it more so have made my mom upset than anything, and she just didn't want to deal with the thought of her 14-year-old being pregnant.
Right.
And so it was not the happiest moments in the house, but I think I spent more time at my sister's place because she stayed right around the corner. So I spent more time at her place than anything. And then I was only pregnant for like 3 months, so maybe like the first month I spent first and probably I'll say like the first month and a half I spent a lot of time at her place, and then I end up going to stay with my godmom up until I miscarried.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I've never had one. Thank God. I do have kids, but
Hmm.
all my kids, and they're all boys. Lord bless my heart. But I mean, my kids are like years. I actually have a 3-year old, and he was actually premature. I had him at 28 weeks, so he was in the
Okay.
hospital for like a couple of months, and thank God everything was okay. But I could not imagine. And then you being young too, and um, having to go through that can, yeah, that can definitely mess with you mentally. Have you ever had to go to like counseling or anything afterwards?
Not really. I think I pretty much got through it pretty well myself. You know, I journaled a lot.
Right.
Right now I'm actually in the process of writing a book, and that's going to be in there. But I journaled a lot as a kid because, of course, my mom and dad they didn't have the money for a therapist, so I
Right.
had to basically be my own therapist. I couldn't really talk to my mom and dad about how I felt because, for one, they didn't want me pregnant in the first place.
Right.
And so I had to learn how to get through the thoughts and process them myself. One of the things that really got me was I was like, well, maybe God knew that it wasn't my time, and that was
Right.
okay. One thing about it, I've been very mature since a young age. So back then, I just took it as, God was just like, it wasn't my time to have a kid. So whenever it was my time, then I knew, it was going to happen. But I experienced two more miscarriages after that before I had
Oh,
my
wow.
oldest. Yeah. Um, and that's the thing. I guess I don't. When the doctor said that my cervix was short and he kind of brushed it off a bit, nobody ever really thought much into it until I miscarried the second time. And once I
Right.
the first doctor, he was a Caucasian doctor. The second doctor that I saw was African American, and the doctor, he was a man. But the day that I started having pains on my second pregnancy, he wasn't in. So a female doctor checked me, and she told me what was going on with me. It's a condition called incompetent cervix, where once the pregnancy hits a certain amount of weeks and it picks up a certain amount of weight, it starts to put weight on the cervix, and my cervix is
Oh
really
wow.
not that strong. So it starts to cause my cervix to dilate.
Okay. And that was actually going to be my question. Did they give you a reason why it happened? So
Yeah.
it was because of the cervix. Wow. So how old is your baby now?
My oldest girl, she'll
Mm-hmm.
be 17 in October.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
you went to full term with her?
She was 30. I had her at 36 weeks. Exactly
36 weeks.
36 weeks. Mm-hmm.
Well, I
She
know they
was
probably had to put you on bed rest. I know.
yes,
Yeah.
okay. Now that was a mental thing right there, which I didn't mind because I
Right.
didn't have to work. Okay, so I got
Right.
some time to take off. But yeah, I think I went on bed rest probably around about 6, almost 7 months, somewhere up in there. I went on bed rest, and I didn't have to be on full bed rest because sometimes with those conditions you do have to be on full bed rest.
Right.
But I got to get up and, walk around and be out just a little bit, but I couldn't be out too much because they actually had to put a stitch around my cervix.
Oh.
So when I was about 10 to 12 weeks, they had to go in through the abdominal area and put a stitch around. They did in my third pregnancy, they put a stitch around my cervix, but they put it at the lower part. By the
Mm.
time I hit like 6 months, it still didn't hold. It didn't hold at all, and the baby didn't. It did. The baby didn't survive. So
Wow.
when I got pregnant with her, they decided that they were going to go in a little bit higher. So they had to go into the abdominal area. I was probably between 10 to 12 weeks when they did that. Went into the abdominal area and put the stitch up higher. So that's how I end up I'm sorry, somebody was calling.
That's
But that's
okay.
how I ended up carrying the two, my three that I have now. I have three,
Oh,
but
awesome.
yes, I lost three and I have three. Okay,
Oh,
so
wow.
they are my biggest blessings. Okay,
Yes.
they are my biggest blessings because I'm like, I didn't know if I was going to. I know the doctor that I saw, the female doctor that I saw my second pregnancy, she said, "We're going to make sure you have a baby."
Right.
And I stuck with her. Ever since then, I stuck with her. She was a saving grace. I promise she was.
Yes, that's awesome. Would you
Mm.
have changed anything different at that age at 14?
Um, I always say, and this is how I am with my daughters. I wish that me and my mom was closer than what we were, where I could just go to her and just
Right.
ask her, and just talk to her about any and everything. I feel like that's what leads a lot of teens to have, babies at an early age because there's something lacking at home.
Right.
And when you're not able to fully express yourself and you're not able to talk to your parents, you start looking for that outside of the house.
Right.
And then that's when girls get off into boys, okay? And you looking for that love outside of yourself and not within yourself. I think as kids we're more so taught about, being a certain way, acting a certain way, prepping you for when you get older. You want the white picket fence, the baby, the
Right.
kids, the husband. And so you already in your mind, you already got that back there. And it's like, okay, well, you might as well, I'm not going to say you might as well start at an early age, but we start at an early age getting off into boys and
Yeah.
things like that and not really thinking consciously thinking we may be subconsciously thinking but we're not really thinking at that time. So
Right.
I feel like if I was like, I'm very open and honest with my children. Whatever questions they come to me with, baby, I find if I don't know the answer, I'm finding the answer. And
Right.
we have a lot of conversations because I have three girls. I don't have any boys. I have three
Oh,
girls. So I have to make sure that I'm being open and honest with them at all times. When curiosity kicks in, baby, come to your mom. Okay, come
right.
to your mom. And also teaching them that, you know, boys are going to be boys. They're going to be there. Okay.
True.
Focus on yourself. What is it that you
True.
want to do? What is it that you want to become when you grow up?
Right.
Focus on that. Build your own thing right now. Kids can come later, baby. Don't let society paint this picture of this perfect marriage with these kids and you
Mm-hmm.
work, and it's more to life than that. Okay.
True.
So I think I kind of got lost in it because my mom and dad at the time was also going through a divorce.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were focused more so on what they had going on. And I'm not going to
Right.
really say they wasn't focused on me, but they were not. In the sense they were, because my mom and dad was strict parents. Like, I could barely go anywhere as a kid. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I
I
couldn't go with some of
understand.
my family members. So I'm like, they were very strict, but when they started going through their things and I got to telling them like how I end up sneaking out. I ain't gonna say sneaking out, but after school, I would tell them, well, I have to go to the library for a school project and this, and they started to believe it. But normally that wasn't them. But since they were so much focused on what they had going on, they were not focused on me whatsoever. Not like that anyway. And
Right.
so I got off into, getting that attention. I feel like if they were giving me more attention, maybe it wouldn't have happened, but they were so focused on what they had going on, and that lack of attention, I looked for that somewhere else, and it was within a
With him.
boy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're young too. So, I mean, just for you going through or seeing your parents go through that, and then you need that attention and not getting it. So, yeah, I can understand that you look
Yep.
for that love in other places.
Yeah.
Um, but I have older brothers, so they didn't play that. You see my boys, they was on it, and then my mom and my dad, they were together for a while, and we were
Yeah.
grown whenever they did separate. But
Mm-hmm.
them boys was not going. Could nobody come in my face? They own it. Anywhere I go, they was on it. So my brothers were very, very, very strict. No, when I
Yeah.
say nobody could talk. I was like, Lord Hammer, which was a good thing too. So, and I
It is.
appreciate them for it. But that's good that you're being honest and open with your girls, so they they get an understanding of what to do and what not to do, and
Exactly.
putting their career first is awesome. I tell my kids the same thing, which my oldest one, he's grown now, but he uh just not had, well, his girlfriend just not had a baby, so I'm a glam on now. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, he's grown and they got their own place and stuff like that. So you know, but yeah, that's awesome that you're very open with them.
Yes, very open. Some people may say you a little bit too open, but my thing of it is I rather my kids know than not to know. A lot of the
Right.
situations that I was in as a kid, which was basically that was the biggest thing. But if I would have been able to go to my parents and just have that relationship and that bond like I have with my children, then
Right.
like my girl tell you right now, I don't want no kids. I have a 17-year, she'll be 17 in October. I have one that will be 14 in December. And then I have an 8-year-old. But even my 8-year-old to this day, she would tell you, I don't want no kids. Like y'all say that now, but I'm
Right.
glad you have that mindset because you'll wait. You will wait. I want you
Right.
to live your life, even in your 20s, your early 20s, mid 20s. Shoot, if you can make it to your 30s before you have kids, like live those years. It's so
Live 'em.
much out here. It's so much more to life. And I tell my kids this. I'm not trying to deter you from having children, but it's so much more to life than having children. It's that's going to slow you down. I want you to see as much as you can see as a single person
Right.
before you go out here and decide, because a child is going to slow you down.
Mm-hmm. That's true. But honey, if they was to get my 3-year-old, they definitely wouldn't want for a very long time. That boy there, whoo, Jesus. So what advice could you give young teens that's pregnant or want a baby? What advice could you give them?
Say that again because you went out. Say that again for me.
What advice could you give teen girls that are wanting kids?
Baby, rethink it. Really sit back and think about why. And if you cannot go to your parents and talk to your parents, find somebody that, a grown person, find somebody that you can truly, truly confide in, that will listen. That's really, really, that will listen and be open and honest with you. I think that's what we lack a lot in our community is people, because we are so busy focused on other things. We not really focused on our kids these days. And I'm like, you really, some people say it's best to be, you can't be your kid's friend and you have to be their parent. No, you need to be their friend too, because you think about it, they have friends at school, wherever, their friends, they're talking to their young friends, and their young friends may encourage them to do things that they may not be ready for. So you being that friend and being that listening, because I feel like as a parent, you're going to be strict and you're going to be like, no,
Mhm.
but you need to really tell them the ins and the outs about why it's so important to wait. And my main thing is, one, you ain't ready. Two, it's so much more than life than to be having a bunch of kids. So
Right.
just live your life. It's, I can promise you, babies will come. They will come. When it's your time, babies will come. But I think another thing is learning self-love. Once you learn that self-love, you're going to think about self only. And there's nothing wrong with being selfish, especially as a kid. Like,
Right.
just do your own thing. Find you some hobbies, some things that you love to do. Like I tell my children, find you some things that you can do and make you some money off of. Like,
Right.
build your wealth first. You know what I'm saying? So when you do get out here and have children, you ain't got to be out here working no 9 to 5. You could be out here with a whole full blown business. And once you're ready to have babies, you and your babies can be traveling while your business is running itself. It's
That makes
all about
sense.
the mindset at the end of the day. You don't want to go out here and have babies and then you stuck at dead end jobs that you don't too much care nothing about, but you got to work it because you got children.
Right.
No, wait until you build something for yourself, get it off the ground, enjoy your life, and then have babies at that time. Babies will come.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you on that. So, ladies, gentlemen, if y'all guys are thinking about having kids at an early age, I heard it from her. Wait. Make sure you're ready. Make sure you're grown. Make sure you have a financial stability where you don't have to run and ask nobody for nothing.
That's
So,
right. That's
guys, listen to her. She dropping them gems on that. So, I want to thank you so much, Tiffany, for being a guest. This was awesome, and I loved it. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me. Look, this is my first time sharing it live. Okay. I'm writing a book about it, but I'm like, I think it's time for me to kind of, I have my own podcast. I'm still working on it, but I'm like, I
You
think it's
got
time.
it.
Yeah. It's Epiphany's Box. Right now I'm in the process of maybe changing the name. I did my first season. Still trying to learn how to critique it, I guess, putting in the commercials and people just telling me so many different things. But
Yeah.
I recorded 2 episodes yesterday that I still have to edit. But yeah, it'll be out probably within the next week or so. I'll finish them up.
Well, you make sure
And
you send me the link so I can
I
go on there and take a look at it. Absolutely.
I will. Thank you so much for
You're
having me.
so
But yeah,
welcome.
kids, stay kids. Enjoy your little teen life. Even when you get in your 20s, wait. Just wait as long as you can. Build you some wealth.
Absolutely.
Build some wealth. That's what we need to be focused on in our community. Build wealth. And then once you're financially stable and you have explored as much as you can explore, then then you can sit down and consider having some children. And make sure you got to make sure it's with the right person. Even if the
Bingo.
relationship don't work out, make sure that other person still is going to be a stand-up parent.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yep.
Yes, yes, yes. But absolutely make sure you share. Send me the link. Once
Okay.
you send me the link and you have it going, I will also share it on my platforms so people can also go on there and watch yours as well. Again,
Okay.
thank you so much for being a guest. This was awesome. So until next time, guys, peace.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.